You want to be the perfect jungler. You want to be the jungle difference every game. In order to do that, you need to measure how good your decision making is, because ultimately that's what jungling is all about. And therefore, with this jungle decision making test, you should be able to measure all aspects of your jungling, from tracking to tempo to trades to knowing exactly what you should be doing at any given moment to satisfy your win con. Now we're going to start the first clears in our game. I will begin to ask the first question when we get to that moment. Just look at the KDAs on your screen now. You want to end up like this, don't you? Especially when your top laner and ADC maybe look like that. And that's what we're going towards in this game. So you're the Diana, you're full clearing all the way down. You don't really know where Briar began because season 14 people don't take leashes. This is where your decision making has to already be good. Now your Kalista has already died. You are finishing off the Raptors and you see that she gets a kill, but then, dies again. 0 CS, I'm a little worried. Normally you're full clearing down to gank bottom lane. Where do you go from here? Do you cut up and invade and check what the Briar is doing? Do you loop back up and maybe gank the top lane? Do you look for the mid lane gank, or do you just simply say, look, there's not enough information, I'm gonna full clear? Well, based on the map, you see Yasuo's pushing the Azir a little bit in, you see the Fiora's pushing the Skarner in a little bit. These are not really clear-cut ganks for a Diana at this stage. The idea that we go and finish our full clear makes the most sense. Hopefully then, Kalista will be in the bottom lane again with the Nico, and maybe we can shut down this lane already. However, obviously at this stage the Ezreal has not based and is 3-0-0, so he is not going to hang around knowing that you most likely will actually try and gank him. Thus, he's going back to base, and you see the Briar ganking mid lane. You press tab and you see 12 CS with the red buff. That means you know she did the red side quadrant. That's not a question, because you should know it. The question is, does this satisfy the 80% rule? Should you rotate and maybe get something good here, or should you keep on farming? As you can see, by the time we have finished the wolves, the Briar has already tower dove, because that's what they do, and shoved the Yasuo out with his flash. She's now walking away with 1 HP. The Diana finishes the wolves and rotates over a lot longer than I think you should. Obviously, I can understand the need to rotate, but at this stage you know she's either going back to base or going straight back up to her camps on the top side, most likely going back to base. Which means it's good to finish your wolf camp and then position yourself to rotate, and when it's clear you cannot cut back and finish off the rest of your clear, as she does. Just be worried not to over chase for this potential kill. You run into roaming supports and you kind of lose a lot of your tempo. She now has to go back to base, she's compromised. Your advantage is that you are way ahead in experience and sequencing. So as always, you should look for a gank when you finish your full clear, especially if the lane is looking juicy. In this case, not so much, but we still have a look. Then we do the Scuttle Crab. Now what do you do? Do you simply go back to base? Do you go into the red side jungle to see what's what? Maybe to leave some wards in the Briar's jungle? Do you go mid lane and maybe try a dive? Or do you stay out, cross mid lane, try and double scuttle, and then assess your options on the other side of the map? And in fact, the correct answer is, in theory, you can go straight back to base. However, the best play here is to go into a jungle, leave a deep ward on the respawn of those camps. Because she ganked mid lane, you know that she did red, Krugs, Raptors, and will now be on the top side of the map. Thus, we want to be able to see when she comes back down to the bottom side, because that's how we can control randomness in every single MMR range. Yes, even a Grandmaster Challenger and Master Tier. Why don't I just go back to base, buy my cash money items, and then of course I can go back onto the map. But the question is, on which side? Yes, obviously top side, because we have the respawn Krugs, we have the respawn Raptors, and we have the grubs that are going to be spawning, which are going to be even more potent in the next couple of patches. And they're still good now even. They're good all the time. It's an objective you can take. It's always worth taking these things if you're going to use them. So when you get to your Krugs, the question is, do you do them or do you do top lane? Well, at this stage, it's a Skarner, it's a Crashing Wave, I don't know where Briar is, I have guaranteed experience in my jungle. I think I'll stay and do the Krugs and the Raptors, a good old-fashioned quadrant clear. Taking one of the quadrants, all of the camps can go away, and then I can reassess this option again in a little bit. Briar finally shows while I'm doing this and ends up ganking and killing my mid laner. Unlucky, unfortunate, but we're used to it. You finish off your Raptors, and you see the Briar go to the bottom side of the map. Do you hold mid lane and then carry on sequencing to prevent her taking all of your camps on the bottom side? You also don't want to give a jungler a free dragon. Do you go into a top side jungle and go counter jungling and steal those grumps and wolves? Or do you abuse vision pathing and, take the grubs? Well, at this stage, you should have recognized that Yasuo had his TP, which means he would come straight back to the lane. No reason showing ourselves for no reason and telling our game plan when our mid lane is going to catch the wave anyway. Also, if you're tracking correctly, you'd notice that the Briar did 12 CS mid lane, now shows up for the gank of mid lane with 28 CS, she pushes the wave, she has 32. Remember, 28 CS is a full clear plus Scuttle Crab. That means her topside cams are definitely not on the map, so there's no point counter jungling those as well. We'll do the grubs and we see her on the Raptors thanks to our good ward. Again, this tracking is fundamental to your success. Now after grubs, I won't ask you this question, but you have two decisions. Do I gank top lane and then reset, or do I gank mid lane? I love ganking mid lane here because the Briar has shown herself to go to the Krugs. You have a small window where you can do this for free. It's not the cleanest thing in the world as you're watching, but we know that at 5 minutes 30 to 6 minutes, that's when solo laners should hit level 6, and thus we can try and abuse this to ensure we offset the lead that the Briar gave the Azir. Now, because you took grubs and the Azir has no TP, the Yasuo wants you to push this wave into the turret and smack it away. Yes or no? Do you do it? The answer is hell no, because if you're tracking the Briar, you know she did Raptors into Krugs, most likely is going to loop back around the bottom side. And not only that, she literally did, but if you're focusing on the mid lane gank, you wouldn't have seen it, it was brief, but you can still extrapolate. Also, your Nico's here, which means the Bard's probably going to match roam, and your Callisto wasn't base. So with your low HP, this is not a play where you want to stay out too long. Could you maybe push her to kite up? Yes, but then I'm going to lose the bottom side of my camps. So I want to fake like I'm going backwards directly and ensure that I can protect my bottom side from being counter jungled, which of course we do. We see that the Nico gets killed by the Briar. Yasuo is coming from base here with the wave kind of frozen against the Azir, and because of this wave state now that we couldn't push, do you do your Gromp, then go back to base and buy? You've earned it. Do you do your Gromp, go ahead and gank bottom lane through a lane gank perhaps, or do you see that the Briar is doing Dragon and go on for a full contest? Remember, I talk a lot about giving up objectives when you can't actually. In this situation, your mid laner should be able to rotate to you. Even if they're not moving directly, you can say, hey guys, the Briar's on this dragon, the Ezreal's not in the picture because he went back to base. Let's go ahead and contest this. We'll have the numbers advantage, at least initially. As long as we get those kills before the Azir and Ezreal show up, we should be able to win it, which of course is exactly what happens. And because you were sequencing intelligently, you hit level 6 in the fight. Remember to level up your ultimate in the middle of the fight, get used to pressing that Alt R or Control R depending on your hotkeys. Chase down the Azir who should have said, guys, give it up, I don't think we should fight this, and kill him as well. This is a huge momentum swing for jungle diff makers. Priming your early game for these kinds of plays, recognizing everything on the map at the same time, is what gets you super fed. Now, obviously the Diana killed the Azir, she goes to the Scuttle Crab. Fill in the blank, what is your next play? Now, if you said go to Grump and go back to base, I respect it because grubs will be spawning again, we have our topside camps. If you said go take the Briar's red, I say, you know what? I agree with your idea, but the problem is Yasuo's in base, Callista's dead. You know, if Briar shows up there, it's a little bit not so good. Instead, when you have an inting bottom lane, and you guys know you have an inting bottom lane, obviously we should have scanner at this point, we don't, but we should understand that the Ezreal, when he's 4-0-1 with this kind of shutdown, and he's pushing your bottom lane to the brink of mental exhaustion, he's gonna push the wave too. He wants a plates, he thinks you're basing, slide in for the lane gank. Hey, if your bottom lane's about to go all in and they're alive and well, slide in for the lane gank. This is a great way to double down on your bottom lane pressure to either snowball your bottom lane or stop the enemy bottom lane snowballing before you reset for the next objective. And if your jungle is truly far behind and you actually can't use a champion to do these things, then it's okay to do the Grump, hold the wave, go back to base, and then go handle the Grump business topside. But I do think here, if you can shut down the Ezreal and you position in a great lane ganking way, it's a huge momentum swing. Here, without a doubt, I think I go to the top side, even though I will have 3 camps on the bottom side as well. The grubs being there means I want to be able to react to any sort of plays. I want to be able to set up vision, player vision, maybe top dive, maybe gank mid lane. I want to create priority for the next objective. So this is where you want to be. However, as always, not a question, keep your eyes up. It's a statement. Look at mid lane, look at top lane. Can I go and do something here before I do my camps? That's always a yes/no question. In this particular case, I think very much it is a... Now, most of you would have said no because it's an Azir and you don't think you can chase him down. Watch the Diana, here she goes. When you have a lead, when you have item advantage, when you know your jungle champion and your jungling, you know how deep you can go. And the big lesson here is for most people beneath Challenger, and yes, even in some Grandmaster games, people don't push the limits of a lead because they don't understand that a 1%, 5% lead can be used like the Diana just did. Full commit, full send, full kills. Now you're lower HP, so do you stay and do the Briar's blue side camps that have spawned, or do you go to your red side camps, or do you do something else? If you said something else like, hey Virkayu, can we look top lane to see what's going on? Maybe we can bait and have a little bit of a gank here. You are 100% correct. That's exactly what you want to do. You don't want to stay for the blue and grump because you're HP compromised. Briar will kill you. You go shadow top lane, see if you can do something there. Skarner escapes, but we win the HP war. We chunk him, and then we can fall back to our camps. And yes, again, we will do the quadrant clear because it allows us to observe. Whereas Briar, the grubs are warded. Can I go mid lane again? The map is sagged off against me. The enemy ADC is fed. I need to play this a bit more cautiously, but guarantee my econ to be a perfect jungler. Now looking at the map state here, should you gank mid lane? Go and try and counter gank top lane perhaps if you think the Briar's there, or perhaps go ahead and do your blue side quadrant. Yeah, I kind of tricked you a little bit. The Nico is a minion on the mid lane, which is basically a way for you to say, oh, if my support is roaming up here and the enemy support is up here, we have a 3v2, should we do it? Yes, it's exactly when you want to do it because this will give you free grubs if you kill both. Unfortunately, our Fiora didn't take the hint and has subsequently died to the Briar, and we really didn't get a gank off in the mid lane. The good news is because we know we have that advantage and that lead, and now that mid Briar from the gank, the grubs will be free because Fiora is going to be back in lane, Briar has to go back to base, Skarner has to go back to base, and therefore we will use this gap in tempo to snack those objectives away and go back to base. Now I'm not going to insult you, you know at this point we're not going topside. There's no camps, no objectives, and because Briar was just seen topside, where's she gonna be next? Bottom side, hooray! Hopefully that was a free one like writing your name on the test. We're gonna go bottom side now, but the question is, do I farm first, do scuttle first, counter jungle first, or slide in for the lane gank first? In this situation, normally when we're all blinded up and we kind of know we have good PvP power, I like to do the scuttle crab first and then go back to do my camps. However here, because there's nothing else to do on the map and we're all warded up so we can see where the Briar goes, I am more inclined to do my blue side quadrant and observe, again like with the grubs. Where's Briar going next? Watch the trading patterns in lane, I see the Yasuo going aggressive on Azir, and because the Yasuo dies, you see the Bard moving up with Cryo. Sure, you could finish your grump and then go to the scuttle crab, but now notice again another pocket in tempo. If I leave my blue now, go to the grump, I will lose the scuttle crab. Because Briar hasn't shown up, she must be doing the same thing. Let me skip the grump, go ahead, and take that scuttle crab away from the Bard. Dragon spawning will get that vision. The question though is, do you go bottom lane and try and gank where it's not clearly warded, or do you go back to your grump, or do you do something else? Here's where you have to have a little bit of trust in your mid laner, but also in yourself. You know that the Azir and most healers will try and push low HP, so I think we can shadow this to see if he does that. If he does, we kill him. If he doesn't, we get to push a wave and create Prior for the dragon. Yasuo does have TP again, but this time he can use it for a PvP play so we can get the kills before the objectives. Because remember, perfect junglers understand kill conversion ratio. Get them kills, get them objectives. And then immediately and without hesitation, this is not a question because I need to teach you this, and I need to teach myself this, to be honest with you sometimes. Go all in when you have the moment, when you have the numbers. Do not miss it. Azir's on the turret, he's HP compromised, he wants to go back to base, the Bard is by himself. Pull the damn trigger. Go in when you have numbers and power advantage. The Briar shows up and she doesn't listen to this advice, so subsequently she dies as well. Now you take the dragon, you take the grump. Here's the next question. Should you hold bottom lane or go back to base to spend your gold because you haven't spent in a while? Yes, you hold bottom lane, but you do more than that. Because your Azir TP to make plays on the bottom side while you're doing dragon, you have to at this stage know, am I the most powerful beast on this map? Look at the CS, look at your KDAs. Yes, I am. Kill the Azir, push the wave out, go back to base. Now you can obviously go to the bottom side again, but you just did the grump, so most camps are on the top side, we go top side again. The thing is, do you go straight to hold top lane because no one's there? Do you go mid lane, or do you do your quadrant first, or something in between? You do something in between, which is do the Krugs, let the game develop, look at the map, keep your eyes open, you see this Skarner overcommitting topside, you realize, wait a second, he's not that fed, he has Bramble Vest and Tier, what an idiot, I'll kill him. You do it, make the decision. Look at the lane, know you can kill, take the kill, especially when they overcommit. If you're the jungle diff, if you're playing aggressively, if you're doing everything in this video, making the right decisions, you will be strong enough to kill a lot of solo laners, as you can see. Once you've done that, and you go to your Raptors and you snack those, do we go and contest and set up for Herald, or do we go into our Wolves? What's been the trend this game? Now at this point, look at your top laner 0-0, look at your ADC 2-4-1, look at your support 1-5-3. I don't think with the map and them all being dead and not in the picture, we're in a position to go face-checking heralds, and too many players, Diamond, Master, Emerald and below, all the way down to low elo, go for these greed heralds at 14 minutes as you leave the early game and then completely compromise their advantage. Because remember, what do you want? 6,000 gold by 14 minutes. What does she have? 7,800. That's what being the perfect jungler means. It means being about 2k ahead of the average. Now you do your wolves because you need to wait for your teammates to respawn and get on the map. You hold mid lane to ensure that you have some vision and some presence before that herald's gonna spawn. You then go ahead and snack that scuttle crab to ensure you're in prime position to make either a fight, a split push, a pick, or a tract depending on what happens. And here's the read. The Briar shows up on a ward, you look at top lane, you look at mid lane, you're on the herald. What do? Fill in the blank. Dun 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 dun, music, music, dun 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 dun, music, music, dun 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 dun, music, music. It's pretty damn straightforward. Give up the herald because you can extrapolate. Where's Briar going? Probably to try and kill my Fiora, who's inting. You know, she's doing okay, but she's not exactly gotten any kills or assists in 50 minutes. Let me take away the Briar's collapse. Ha ha ha. You are 2 levels up on your top laner and you're way ahead of everybody else. You gotta be involved. You can't go and do objectives and farm. You're not Hecarim. You're not something that's boring and that's gonna let your team lose. You have to carry them in your backpack. See the Briar, know where the Briar's gonna go, take away what she was gonna do. Okay, cool. Now that we've done that, I can go back to the herald, right? Or I can do her blue side and wolves. Or I can push the turret because I got 6 grubs. Or I can do the turret and in the blue side. Which do I do? You give Fiora solo experience to push up the turret, you do the blue to take it away from the Briar. If she contests, you kill her. If she doesn't, you join the Fiora and now you take the turret. Briar is not a very good champion in the high elo, but she is also the most horrifically designed nonsense that they can never balance. That's why she's being nerfed again, and so she's still able to get a kill and almost kill you, even though look at the state of the game. But nonetheless, Patience Viceroy, she will die. If they show up, you kill them, you move on with your life. And then yes, you can take the ground, fall back to the herald, fall back to your red side, go back to base and buy yourself a big old death cap with Mejai's. Now obviously you can go ahead and buy the Lich Bane as well. You can go ahead and maybe try some Proto Belt, they'll recommend it. Or you can just keep going full AP. When you've got a big lead, no one's gonna kill you or out-kill you as long as you're smart. So the more damage you build, the more likely you're gonna be able to carry, which is why Tank Diana was only really good beneath Diamond, and once you were above that, you still wanted to go AP even back in those days. Now we are firmly in the mid game and we're gonna leave the base here. Which direction do we go? Yes, we are not going to the bottom side here, we're going to the Raptors because as we're in the mid game, the 15 to 20 minute mark for me, as I've been explaining in the private Discord for a while now, is absolutely the most crucial aspect of Season 14. Using your grubs, using your dragons for these crucial fights, for these moments to push turrets and really bust open the game, this is how you win by 20 to 25, by making the plays here. So we go to Raptors to shadow mid lane in case something happens. Nothing, then I can go to my wolves, do my blue, do my grub, and I can cut back into the mid lane, all the while being able to shadow in and cut and rotate where it's needed. My team int can always go to the bottom side and split push that as well. In this case, you go to the Raptors, you see a moment to collapse on the Ezreal, and so you do. Big old fight develops and you do good things. Well done, because of your build is full damage. We're not talking about builds here, but this build is very aggressive. Obviously, you can go other things, but for now, we'll just focus on the decision making. Once you've done that, do you go back and farm your camps and say, yes, I did good, the dragon is spawning, team you push without me? Or do you stay with your team in shadow? You stay with your team. If you go back to your blue side and set up for the dragon, your team will be caught up by the enemy carry who's actually fed, the Azir rotating or whoever else is against you. The grubs are only great if you use them. They're great now, they're going to be greater in the future. Take them, hit turrets, do turret damage. Most junglers do not, and that's why they lose. If someone rotates, you'll be able to destroy them, which is of course what you do. And now you shadow down with your Yasuo and say, let's push this bottom turret as well. Turrets, turrets, turrets. Why? Because you can then fall back to the dragon as it spawns. Once it's done, do you go back to base? Hell no, because you're satisfying the need to shadow the Yasuo. You know the Baron is going to be spawning, you know you want to take your blue side quadrant and get enough gold for a better buy, and you want to be with the Yasuo at all times on the map, not the rest of your teammates, they're lemons. With your Yasuo, you got to find that person on your team that is somewhat capable of 2v8ing with you. And now that you've made that right decision, it's pretty damn easy to say, okay, let's catch the wave top lane, see if they overcommit. They don't, okay, I can do Krugs. You could stay and farm some more, but this is where the high-low thing comes in. Don't stay and farm some more. Push the map up, get involved. You are the Fed member, you are the carry. See Kalista pushing, see Yasuo pushing, see Fiora pushing, that means you should probably not be farming and going off and doodling things by yourself. Biggest tip, that's what's not a question. The question I pose to you while you sit in the jungle scouting for camps is, are you looking to trap and make a fight and a huge fight for your team, or are you simply looking to wait for waves and be super duper patient? Yes, you are looking to fight, you are strong, you have the most gold I've ever seen out of Diana at this point in many, many years. You have to use your power curve. If you are not using it right now, no matter what jungler you're playing, you're giving rise to the potential for throws. If you leave, your team will die. End of story. However, if you stay, your team also might die, and that's the thing. At some point, you have to use your mechanics. At some point, you have to be able to use your champion to outplay the enemy using the gold lead that you have, because your gold lead is so astronomical. If you cannot, then you cannot be a carry and a jungle diff maker. Remember that. So while I don't necessarily want to force a bad fight here, I do want to push the waves up, siege a little bit, maybe force them into tilting into me, making a bad engage. If we clean them up and ace them, we end the game. If we don't, then at the very least, I can still kill enough of them that they can't actually get any objective. And obviously, this is a longer drawn-out fight. She catches waves, kills the Briar again for being dumb. If this was a jungle decision-making video on the Briar, this would be very difficult to make. The question, I guess, is, do you do the Baron now, or do you wait? It sounds like an obvious one, but I can tell you one of the biggest things in difference of elos is the ability to 20 minutes to do a Baron on a dime. They show bottom lane, you do it immediately. You kill the jungler, you do it immediately. Their whole team's up, but they don't have the time to get to you, you do it immediately. The question becomes, do I turn or not? In most games, when you have a lead like this, I'm not interested in coin flipping. If they show up, I just kill them and then we end. But 100%, this is the Baron play you need to make. Now the question after you take the Baron is, do you do your red side quadrant as it spawns and then go back to base? Or do you go back to base right now? The answer to that will depend on your champion and depend on where your laners are. If your laners are all looking to push, they're really fed, they're good to go, and the game can end from this, it's better to go back to base, finish your item, and carry on. If you need a bit more gold just to finish one component or an item, it's okay to maybe do the Raptors quickly, go back to base, come back on the map, do your red, and off we go to finish. In the case of the Diana here, she can do the quadrant, get enough gold to finish the Zhonya's, and then buy another needlessly large rod. This removes any variability in their ability to actually close this game out. Her gold lead at this point with that extra needless and 25 stacks is insurmountable by the enemy team unless she makes a big mistake. So from this perspective, it's better to do the quadrant, then go back to base, hope your team wait for you, and join up with them. As long as you keep communicating and pinging it, hey guys, wait for me 1 second, you should be absolutely okay, but there is that risk that they push without you. So you need to weigh the pros and cons of the timing, what your laners are doing, how they're behaving in game, are they listening to you in general, and then you can make a more effective decision. And I guess the final question in this test is, once you have gone back to base here, do you push to end, or do you do macro? If you honestly thought you had to do macro here, that's not so good, because at this point there's only brute force, because there's no real brute force. They're a basketball and you're Shaquille O'Neal's hands, and that's the end of the story. Rise up, use your power, fist them into their nexus, take all the gold, plus whatever LP you get, hopefully plus 55 million, and you are looking at a 17 kill pseudo pentakill Diana. Let me know in the comments what score you got, and of course if you want to understand a different aspect of jungling, this video does a good job of giving that to you.